Good day, Universus and Hero Academia fans. My name is Levi, and today it's time to dive into the action-packed event that was the North America Webcam Regional License Exam. Bright and early on the morning of June 3rd, 2023, we saw a whopping 190 aspiring heroes show up to their computers in order to bring their A game. Not an unsurprising number for a high-level event that you can partake in from the comfort of your very own home. But a massive one nonetheless. Coming in at almost the tail end of our first season of competitive play this year, the meta was shaping up to be very interesting. Let's take a look at that character breakdown. We can see the champion of our previous Kansas City event still standing very strong at the top of 14 players choosing to take Fourth Kind here in an effort to defend his title. Their work was cut out for them though, with the meta staple that is Jiro being represented very close behind. Between both of these characters' power and pressure they put out as the two aggressive staples of the meta, we were not surprised to see them stand so proudly here. Our game is never without its diversity though, as we saw a slew of characters under them all at very similar numbers. Ochako 2 is a character that can never be discounted, as her high rolls are some of the scariest around, especially with her already taking down an RLE this season previously. Shigaraki 3 is another character that we cannot write off in the slightest, having seen atop at several events so far and recently powered up with his new action card from the class reunion, Masterminding. What puzzled us the most of all though was the absence actually of Recovery Girl. With a sizable number registered in our previous event and a huge conversion rate going into the top cuts, it looked like her momentum just wasn't going to carry over into this event. Expectations aside though, we all threw our hats in the ring, completely unaware for the insane set of Swiss rounds that were in store for today. And so, with day one coming to a close, the sun rose and shone through our windows upon an extremely peculiar top cuts. So, very many standout decks were out to play. Our left side of the bracket saw a couple reruns between Andrew New's True Form and Ben Lambright's Midoriya 3, but they were not nearly the darkest horses here as we stared down an Aoyama and Uwabami showdown. The real mark of this top cuts though was the five-handers coming out the woodworks, looking at a pair of Ochako 2 and Nomu matchups, as well as a Fourth Kind and a Nomu. AJ Steele and Joseph Zimmerman brought us a very thematic hero and villain showdown with that trademark Shigaraki 3 top cut slot. But we had an even more interesting two-dot matchup with the likes of Eraserhead and Toru's second versions. It was shaping up to be a fierce day of competition for these players to show us, and show us they did. Eventually, as every Nomu drew their last breath and every Fourth Kind failed to seal the deal, the finals all came down to this: Gavin Kale's out of nowhere Eraserhead 2 deck up against Jose Norono's Himiko Toga. This Eraserhead deck totally surprised us, as most of us are used to seeing his previous form garner that competitive spotlight. Once we saw it in action though, it was clear this Eraserhead deck was just as potent. We saw this deck blazing through both Swiss and top cut rounds, utilizing Eraser's powerful ability to stack so much speed for every attack he's played, as well as provide on-block punishment. He's like a Jiro, but with a little bit of interaction. This ability combined beautifully with things like Chivalrous Competitor and Valiant Assault to draw us a million cards and convert all of them to speed and stun on our attacks via snack time. On top of that, the response on Eraserhead lets us leverage some really crazy defense by ripping away our rivals' best ability every single time they go into us. You only get to use this once per turn, but with the right decision making, we saw how untouchable this deck could sometimes feel. Another massive aspect of this deck was the ultimatums that it put on its rivals. Eraserhead's on-block draw comboed beautifully with things like Rapid Punches and Missouri Smashes on damage abilities, ensuring that whether or not our rival stopped our attacks or took them to the face, there was a benefit to be had. It also became the running joke of the weekend that if this deck opened a Cat Punch on you, you basically just had to take 6 damage, because allowing your rival to draw 2 cards is just never a good idea. As nice as drawing a million cards is though, it does not win the game on its own. With all that speed being thrown around, it's safe to say that we need some damage to boot. That's where the all symbol punch package really really shines, with the likes of Texas Smash and Hardened Barrage really helping us find ways to round out our stats to make sure that we could close games just as easily as we can navigate our way through them. Lastly, a sneaky powerful aspect of this deck was its character sideboard potential. The All Punch package is so generic and so stable that it can be thrown onto lots of characters. Inside Gavin's sideboard, we saw not only a pair of All Mights for a little more consistency in our character options, but also the copycat Monoma himself. Monoma is often used against 5-handers to take and use their very powerful abilities, but as a 6-hander instead. This was a great choice that we saw employed several times throughout the whole event. Now, all of those powerful factors just didn't prove quite powerful enough to take home the gold. That honor fell to the one and only Jose Norono and his Himiko Toga deck. Jose's name itself is enough to strike fear into the heart of any webcam player, especially with him winning several major webcam events in the past and being an HLC competitor. But the deck in his hands was also not a stranger to us by any means. Coined Gamer Toga in the past events, this is a sort of blitzkrieg deck that seeks to combine an extremely aggressive and powerful life symbol attack engine to swing at your rival an obscene amount of times, pile on crazy amounts of damage, and just manipulate your resources like no other. Now, how does it do all that? Well, it starts with Toga herself. Toga is the queen of cycling. Being a 7-hand size character that puts minimal amounts of speed on things and burns our rival, all while cycling 2 more cards every turn, is just what this deck needs to pull off its crazy strings. Going through 9 cards a turn is really what allows this deck to pop off, looking to chain things like back alley haymakers and future charges to just draw tons and tons more, while Heroic Strike and Tongue Whip stun them down and fill their card pool up, making our attacks increasingly difficult to stop. Eventually, these strings look to cap off in as many alleyway ambushes as we draw. The star of the show here, this card allows you to completely ignore progressive difficulty to finish off your rival once we find ourselves 5 cards deep into our pool. Now, finding and playing 5 attacks is no easy feat, but that's where the 9 cards that Toga sees comes in, as well as all of our other card draw, and the new addition of The Future Is Now lets us bypass progressive difficulty even more and earlier along the way. As crucial as this deck's attack strings are though, its foundations are the biggest contribution to its lethality. Save for Tongue Whip's massive damage pump, all of our efficiency-based attacks are not particularly threatening. That's where our life symbol foundation pool comes in. Tight-lipped, floating babies, self-sacrifice, full-on attack mode, these are all cards that allow you to put repeated 1 damage after 1 damage onto our moves, letting you weaponize your stage in a way that scales more and more as you play all of your attacks. Another huge proponent the life symbol brings to this deck is its ability to build and ramp foundations. Playing 5 attacks to get to your alleyways can be pretty tough. That's where cards like Precious Lesson and Someone with Style can come in, allowing you to constantly turn those committed foundations into newer ready ones, one way or another. And sometimes you just draw double new training method and build 7 on turn 1. These components all came together to deliver Jose yet another webcam victory, and another one with Toga no less. He spilled all the details on how the deck came together back in the day and evolved for this new format in the amazing winners interview that he did with us. But you'll have to make sure you catch our event streams to see even more of those decks and players just like that. And so our webcam regional came to a close, and while season 1 of events has come to a clean end, there are plenty more action-packed ones on the horizon. Season 2 is ready to come out swinging, with another webcam event hosted by Unfun Stuff on July 15th, and signups for that are live as we speak. There are so many awesome events coming up in the second half of this year, and I hope I get to see you at them. Every single level of play in our game is heating up though, with Undaunted Raid dropping like a total bomb and bringing in a whole new set and slew of cards and characters that you do not want to miss. So make sure you're hitting up your local game stores to get in on the raid, as well as your sealed play events to help out the newcomers in your community. And of course, if you don't know where you can get in on the action, the UGN site is still your best friend to help find stores supporting the game near you. Thank you so much for watching, fellow heroes, and I cannot wait to see you join me in the Undaunted raid in the second half of this year. Take care and good night.